Did you know that there are more chickens in the world than there are humans? Well, stay tuned. Ahead, I'll talk with Sy Montgomery about what the chicken knows, a new appreciation of the world's most familiar bird. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and this is Some Books Considered. Sy Montgomery is a naturalist, adventurer, and best-selling author of more than 30 acclaimed books of nonfiction for adults and children, including The Hummingbirds Gift, The Hawk's Way, The Soul of an Octopus, and of Tame and Turtles. She joins us to talk about what the chicken knows. Sy, welcome to Some Books Considered.
I'm so pleased to be back. Thank you.
Now, one of the things you point out at the beginning of the book is that technically we're still living in the age of the dinosaurs because chickens.
That's right. Gosh, they are not just the living descendants of dinosaurs. They're the direct descendants of the theropod dinosaurs, the dinosaurs like T-Rex, which of course means that T-Rex probably tasted like chicken.
And then they say now that T-Rex was probably covered in feathers.
Yes, absolutely. This is a wonderful thing that, you look outside at your bird feeder, dinosaurs. And at Thanksgiving, unless you're vegetarian or vegan like me, there's your dinosaur that you're eating right in the middle of they're among us. And I was devastated when, as a little girl, I was told that dinosaurs were extinct. It's wonderful to know that they're not.
And not only are they among us, they outnumber us. So kind of what is the ratio of chickens to humans on the planet?
The last statistic I read was that there's 4 chickens for every human on the planet. So, you would think that we would know them well, but we actually don't.
Yeah, in fact, you write in the book that almost everything people think they know about chickens is wrong. So tell us about—
That is absolutely so.
Tell us about what chickens actually are, since we have this big misperception about them.
Well, I was once sitting next to a nice man on an airplane who proceeded to tell me that chickens were stupid, that they were dirty, and they were mean. And I asked him where'd he get this information, and he got it from working on a factory farm in which all of these chickens were just jammed into a tiny space and had essentially gone insane. Anyone would be stupid and dirty and mean under circumstances like that. But chickens are actually very, very smart and in ways that we should appreciate. For example, for a chicken, the most important thing is your flock, your community. And a chicken can recognize at least 100 different individuals by looking at their faces. And they recognize individual humans, too, as well as members of other species. So their social order, which we call the pecking order, is really more about order than it is about pecking. They're also really smart about mapping their world spatially, which I'm terrible at. I could never find my car in the garage, and I got lost in our own backyard once as a child. But chickens are terrific at mapping spaces, and they can find their way back from the most incredible situations. I had a chicken once who was taken by an owl at dusk, and I could see this in the snow. I could see the wings of the owl, and then I could see the feathers of the missing chicken. And darned if 2 weeks later, that chicken came trudging out of the woods. The owl had dropped her like, some paratrooper in the middle of nowhere, and she found her way home. But they're all geniuses with space.
Now, I want to talk more about these unique qualities of chickens in a moment, but let's talk a bit about the book. Tell us what people are going to find here.
Well, I hope that what they're going to find is this familiar bird that we often wrongly dismiss as unimportant or unintelligent can just enchant us and surprise us with their intelligence and their affection and their powers. Chickens can be very affectionate as well. They're a source of wildness and wonder right in your own backyard. And I kept chickens for over 2 decades. And even after I no longer had chickens on our property, who I kept personally, I continued to learn absolutely gobsmacking facts about them that freshly enchanted me. And so that's what I'm hoping that readers feel as they enter the chicken universe with me and meet some of my ladies and other chickens who we've come to know, who have just revelatory stories to share.
And I should also note that the book contains some beautiful photographs of chickens.
Yes, by Tia Strombeck, my very good friend who's done photographs for other books with me. She's a bird whisperer. We worked together on a book on condors. And to do this, part of the thing that we got to do was hold a condor in our lap. And I had the privilege of being both bitten and pooped on by a condor, which really is a degree of intimacy that most writers don't get to have with their subjects.
In these photographs, you see what, people stereotypically would think of as a chicken in terms of the look. But they're also just these gorgeous chickens with different types of plumage and different ways of sort of presenting themselves. It's a fascinating look at the range there exists within the chicken world.
Yeah, there's chickens with poofy top knots, and there's chickens with fancy feathers on their feet. And they look like, some kid walking around in their dad's bedroom slippers. There's chickens with great long tails that if they're sitting high on a perch, the tail would just come cascading down to the floor. And, there's itty bitty chickens and great big chickens. There's even chickens who have black skin and black bones, and chickens who lay green eggs, although not with ham, and chickens that lay kind of pinkish eggs and brown eggs and white eggs. They're one of the most plastic species out there in terms of, you can get them to look like almost anything with big floppy combs or big tall combs or little tiny rose combs, big wattles, little wattles. There's even chickens called turkins who look like a cross between a chicken and a turkey, which they are not. Why you would not want feathers on your neck, I'm not sure. I would love to grow feathers on my neck, but I haven't been able to so far.
Based on your research and your experience with chickens, are there personality differences by breed, or is that more of an individual thing?
Yeah, there are. I mean, some chickens are what you call broody, and they like to sit on their eggs for a long time. Others lay their egg and then they're on with their day. And then there's chickens who prefer to roost in the trees. I had some Lakenvelders, a beautiful black and white breed. And at night, I kept trying to get them to come in, and they wanted to roost in the trees. But everyone is an individual. And within the flock, each flock, I discovered, has its own culture on top of that, which I was absolutely fascinated to learn when we got a wonderful new tenant, Elizabeth Kenny, who came with her own flock, the Rangers, who were totally different from my ladies.
That's essentially the idea that they would sort of develop their own kind of group culture as a result of interacting with each other.
Yes, and it persists even when the founding members have gotten old and died. Because with me, the soup pot was just not the retirement plan with my flock. They were going to stay as long as they could live. I didn't care if they continued to lay eggs or not. But chickens generally, a 10-year-old chicken is a very old chicken, although some have lived longer. But the original founding members of my flock were long gone. But the culture, which was kind of a feminist utopia, very calm ladies, not a lot of pecking, not a lot of squabbling. It was just a lovely, calm, cohesive flock. Whereas Elizabeth's flock, which she called the Rangers, they were ready to rumble. They were drama queens. And they intimidated my chickens so much that my chickens, after having lived on our 8 acres for over a decade, they just moved next door. They annexed the next door neighbor's property, and they just spent their days over there.
I'm talking with Sy Montgomery about What the Chicken Knows, a new appreciation of the world's most familiar bird. And our conversation continues in a moment. If you're enjoying this discussion, please subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you know when I post new interviews. And thank you. As you write in your book, roosters are known for being more aggressive. But You learn that if you respond to that aggressiveness with an act of love, you can actually change that attitude with a rooster.
I learned that after more than 2 decades of keeping chickens on my own. And even after my flock was gone, I continued to learn about these birds when a new neighbor started a rooster rescue. And Ashley Nagley would take in these roosters who had been given up because they were attacking people. And to be fair, a rooster, no one can have a better protector than a rooster. They will chase off a fox if they can. They will fight to the death protecting their flock. But sometimes they'll perceive a person as a threat and they'll attack you. And what to do when this happens is so counterintuitive. You or me, someone attacks you, you either run away or you stand and fight. And neither one of these are the right thing to do. According to Ashley, and her method is proven, and I've seen how well it works, what you should do is pick up the rooster and cuddle him. Carry him around with you all day talking to him. And the roosters, she has created these lovely gentlemen from these violent, scary roosters. And they have such great personalities. One of her roosters, every morning, he learned how to open the door by turning the doorknob. He would walk in the house, mount the stairs, go to the top of the stairs, and then he would crow, and he would be everybody's alarm clock. And another one loved to watch her husband as he repaired the car with such attention, you'd think he was going to repair his own car the very next day. And this rooster would also bring Ashley thoughtful little gifts and just deposit them at her feet, shiny things or gaskets that the rooster would find around. So thoughtful. And you really couldn't have a better protector than a rooster. There's many cultures that tell us that, we should be more like roosters. We should be that courageous and dedicated to our families.
I want to come back to the idea of chicken intelligence. And you mentioned earlier that they've surprised you in many ways, that you didn't expect this behavior from them. So tell us a bit about that, some of the ways that they've expressed their intelligence in ways that really surprised you.
Well, one was that, if you just listen to chickens, it sounds like they're just walking around saying bok, bok, bok and pecking at stuff. And my husband, who's the smartest man I know, pretty much translated their saying, I'm a chicken, you're a chicken, I'm a chicken, you're a chicken. But in reality, scientists have discovered at least 24 different vocalizations that they use to transmit very specific information, such as there is a hawk coming nearby. And that is totally different from the call that they give if there's a land predator far away. And I had a friend, he's gone now, he was a world expert on wildebeest, Dick Estes, and he used to love to freak out my chickens by giving the hawk call, and every one of the chickens would look up, because it was totally different than just saying, oh, I'm scared of something. Roosters will tell their ladies when there's something particularly delicious, and his call is different for the really delicious treat than it is for some meh, cracked corn or something. But if there's a whole bunch of really juicy worms, he transmits that information very specifically.
You also write in the book that they are self-aware in that they were able to recognize themselves in a mirror. And I thought of that because they were talking about, if they saw a threat and they were alone and there was just their reflection, they didn't freak out about it. But if they could see another bird, they would warn them.
Yes, I thought this was a brilliant test that was devised in the laboratory to see whether they understood their reflection was a reflection and not another bird. And the mirror test, it's been used as a gauge of self-awareness for a lot of different species, either rightly or wrongly, because there are some animals like gorillas who don't like to look in a mirror, because if you look into someone's face, it's a threat in gorilla society. And when you first look up at a mirror, all of us, if we weren't familiar with mirrors, would think it was another person. So, to think that gorillas are not self-aware is insane. They're very self-aware. But this was like a biologically relevant study that was devised. And I think we're entering a really interesting era of ethology, the study of animal behavior, in that people are not just using a people intelligence test on an animal. They're using an intelligence test that calls upon something that would matter to the animal in a way that would reveal what it's truly interested in and how its mind works. And all of these studies are pointing to far greater intelligence and plasticity than we ever dreamed anyone capable of other than humans.
Given the fact that we're now realizing that chickens and a lot of other animals are more intelligent than we'd previously given them credit for, how does that impact what our relationship should be with them?
Well, I think it really should revolutionize the keeping of chickens in captivity. Because if you have an intelligent being who has memories and emotions and who imagines the future, we shouldn't keep them in, overcrowded, filthy prison camps. And it is legal to keep chickens in deplorable conditions right now. And if you go to the supermarket, the cheapest meat from birds, the cheapest meat from everyone, basically, is from a horrible situation. I wouldn't want to put that food in my body. I would not want to make my cells out of that. I don't want to take literally into my being all that horror and sorrow and despair. It really should change the way we keep these animals and respect them. I ate the eggs that my ladies gave me, and they were delicious. And it didn't distress them for me to take their eggs. They had good lives. But I found the eggs were just a bonus. The real joy of having chickens was learning from them and being in their company.
Given what you know now, what advice would you have for someone who wants to raise chickens?
Well, I would say first, whenever you adopt anyone, a human or an animal, make sure that you have what they need. And what chickens need, they need space outdoors where they can enjoy the sun and the grass and hunt for bugs. They need a safe place at night where they won't be taken by predators. And we have had a big resurgence of predators coming back as our ecosystem has healed here in New Hampshire. And I finally found that I could not, with the configuration of our barn and our house, I could no longer safely keep chickens in a way that allowed them the freedom I wanted them to have on this property. And as a result, my last remaining chicken moved down the street where I visited her all the time. And the other advice I would give people is make time to visit your chickens and watch them, because your flock is different from anyone else's flock, and they might reveal to you something that no one else has ever seen. And just think of this fantastic opportunity that you have to travel in the chicken universe.
To learn more, the book is What the Chicken Knows, A New Appreciation of the World's Most Familiar Bird by Sy Montgomery. Sy, thank you for talking with me today.
Oh, I love talking with you. This was a blast for me. Thank you.
If you'd like to purchase What the Chicken Knows, I placed a link for you in the description below. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and click on the bell so you know when I post new interviews. Meanwhile, here are 2 more interviews you might find interesting. I'm Dan Skinner. Thank you for watching this edition of Some Books Considered.